In this video I want to talk about an idea that you might not have heard before, at least not in the terms I'm about to describe. As we all know, Charles Darwin was responsible for the theory of evolution of life due to random mutation, crossover, and natural selection. That basically means that all forms of life evolve by random genetic mutation, crossover between similar forms of life and, perhaps most importantly, natural selection of the environment. You might be wondering what all of this has to do with the markets. It turns out that this situation describes perfectly the underlying mechanism of selection in the markets. In other words, the good traders are in some way selected by the way the markets work, and the bad traders are simply discarded. It's interesting to notice that the process of crossover also has a parallel to what happens to traders of all stripes. Just think about what this YouTube channel is about. All we are doing here is to cross over our knowledge about the markets. By learning new things from other traders, you are crossing over the good knowledge that you already have with the good knowledge of somebody else. That has an incredibly powerful effect because it creates traders that are increasingly smarter and fitter to the current markets. The financial markets, like the environment, have certain rules that are immutable. For example, you cannot change the laws of physics. They are immutable. The same happens in the markets in a few different ways. For example, you cannot change the underlying supply and demand mechanism of the markets. You cannot change the fact that using good risk-reward ratios is a solid prerequisite for long-term survival. You cannot change the fact that we all have cognitive biases that will definitely be triggered in many situations of our trading lives. Despite being aware of this fact or not, when traders enter in the market, they are basically entering a race, and they are immediately being subjected by the natural selection of the markets. If you don't get yourself together as a trader very quickly, you will be out of this game even faster. The amazing thing about this parallel between Darwinian evolution and the natural selection of the markets is that people don't usually think about the markets as a natural phenomenon. However, the financial markets are the modern version of the hunter and prey relationship. It's just a lot subtler, and a lot more complex as it turns out. Another important thing that I want to point out here is that achieving success in the markets is not necessarily a game. It's a series of games that must be won simultaneously, and these games intersect with one another in specific points, as we already pointed out several times in these short YouTube videos. The essential point of this video is that the series of games that is called trading is actually a Darwinian race that rewards the fittest traders that are able to survive in the long term. As you can probably imagine, the large traders of the market called market makers are in the absolute top of the food chain. To finish this off, I want to give a few guidelines that you must follow without exception in order to avoid being thrown out of the Darwinian race of the markets. Number 1. Get your facts together and learn as much as you can about your surrounding reality, and of course, the reality that encapsulates the market. That's an absolute necessity for obvious reasons. Number 2. Learn as much as you can about human psychology and the way we relate to economic decisions. This might seem simple on the outside, but it is incredibly complicated once you look under the hood. Number 3. Develop your discipline not only as a trader, but also as a human being. The key to developing discipline is breaking down your goals into smaller goals in a way that these small set of goals become realistically achievable on a daily basis. Number 4. You cannot trade well if your life is a mess or if you put too much pressure to make a living out of trading in the beginning. That's very important. I'm not saying you cannot make a living out of trading. I'm just saying that you need a very specific lifestyle for that to happen in realistic terms. Number 5. Don't act by impulse in the markets. This is probably one of the worst enemies we all have. As mature traders, we must find a balance between intelligence and aggression. That's where you want to be as a trader. As soon as you start to trade, your mind will be invaded by all sorts of temptations and impulses that will ultimately make you drive off of a cliff in the end. Be smart about your actions and let your intelligence be the driver, not your intuition. These are very general guidelines, but they become deeper once you start to look more into them. We deal with these things in a more advanced and comprehensive way in the Fractal Flow strategy video course. If you're interested in learning more about it, you can check that out, or you can simply send us an email to solve your questions about the market. Getting a high-quality education is the only way around what we call the intelligence paradox in the markets. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your feedback below. Thank you for watching.